for Natelier Creative. My name is Chelsea, and if you watched my first video, thank you so much. It means the world to me. I really just want to share all of the creative inspiration that I can, both for knitting and small business and witchcraft and all the fun things that I'm interested in, and hopefully you are too. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about my favorite things that I've ever knit. And I only have one project that I don't have with me because it was gifted to someone else, but for the most part, everything else that I'll mention today I can show you and hopefully insert some either photos or videos of me wearing it in better context since I'm here at the table. But I thought I would change up the location today from where I was last time because there was a bit of road noise and I'm still figuring out the best way to film and record. So I'm hoping that the more videos I make, the more and more the quality will improve as far as like the video and the audio and all those things. So thank you for bearing with me, and I hope that this brings you some enjoyment. So if you want to grab your knitting project and knit along, or if you have a cozy beverage that you want to tuck into, and this shouldn't be crazy long, I'm just going to be sharing some of my favorite things that I've knit. So to start, I'll talk about the piece that I'm wearing right now. This is probably my most beloved sweater, and I think it was my first sweater that I made as an adult who came back into knitting. I learned how to knit as a child from my grandmother. I had like a little phase in middle school where I was making like little scarves and things like that for friends, but no like big projects on smaller needles. And I kind of forgot about the hobby for a few years until I started working for a crafting company. And I'm sure you've heard of it because there's a lot of advertisements on YouTube for it, but I used to work for this company called Trusty that teaches classes online about knitting, cake decorating, sewing, pretty much any craft you can imagine. And once I started working there, we got a discount on supplies and patterns and all that fun stuff. So I sort of got back into it and started to find projects that I enjoyed more. And then a couple years after that, when I moved here to the UK, I really dove in with knitting as my main hobby because it's cold here for a lot of the year, and knitting's just such a cozy thing that can be done like while watching a movie or TV or anything like that. So I really went full in. And that's when I started to make this sweater. This is the sweater number 11 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And it has ribbing on the bottom, on the neck, and then also on the sleeves. And I made this one using heavy merino from Knitting for Olive, held with their soft silk mohair. And that was the first time I had invested in like a slightly more expensive yarn. I would say Knitting for Olive is still, I mean, it's very high quality, I think, but it's not like the expensive skeins that you would buy at maybe a boutique or something like that. They're usually around $5 or $6 a skein, so it's a little more budget friendly for making a whole sweater, and especially for the quality. I was just so impressed. I mean, I've had this sweater for about 3 or 4 years now, and it really is just now starting to get a couple of little pills just under the arms a little bit where it wears, but that's from, I wash it about once a season, and that's from wearing it just all of the time, and those will come off when I use the little sweater depiller, so really like amazing quality. But for the pattern, I just love this sweater. It's so cozy. This is my sweater that I wear on days that it's like really cold outside. Today is not one of those days. I'm wearing it especially for the video, but it's, I think because of the double rolled neck with the ribbing, it just is very cozy. I usually wear it on top of like a thin fitted turtleneck or something. And it's a sweater that also in the springtime or the fall you can wear outside as like the outer layer instead of having to wear a jacket. So it's a great piece and I love the fit of it. It works so well with like a high-waisted pant. I think if I were to remake this now, and I'll show you if I can insert a photo or a video of me wearing it so that you can see the bottom part of it, I would make it a little bit longer just because I think, you know, as styles change and as things kind of evolve, sometimes it's nice to have like a little more length in the sweater, and then I can always tuck it in if I want the more cropped look. But honestly, this piece is just like very nearly perfect, and I feel like it looks a lot like a lot of the sweaters that I've seen from the fancier knitwear brands that are running for like $400 or $500. And the quality I think has held up so well. So yeah, all good things to say about it. That's why it's one of my favorites. And knitting for, My Favorite Things Knitwear really makes some of the best fitting patterns in my opinion. I think she's really good at having good drape and fit and style and all those things. Like her sweaters feel contemporary but also classic enough that you could wear them for a really long time. So would highly recommend both Knitting for Olive yarns and also My Favorite Things Knitwear for any patterns, but particularly this sweater number 11. I think it's just a great classic roll neck jumper. Okay, so the next one I'll show you, this is going back in time by quite a lot actually. I made these stockings, which they're an over the knee sock, and I'll try to show some up close details of them so that you can see more what it looks like. But they have like a really pretty detail on the heel, and then they have this like lace pattern that goes all the way up the back of the leg, and then another little kind of ribbed fancy detail at the top. These were from this book called Hand Knit Holidays, and I'll put a link to the book and the pattern as well in the description. But I got this book as a gift, I believe, when I was in high school. I went to our local yarn shop and they had it in there, and the first thing I saw in the book was the pattern for these stockings, and I just immediately fell in love. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have those. And I had never knit anything from a pattern at that point. I had only been making like little scarves and things like that on like big needles. So I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I think that these stockings are knit on a US size 1 or 2 needle, so like incredibly small, basically like knitting with toothpicks. Also double pointed needles, and yeah, it was a challenge that I really created for myself, but I was determined to have them. And my grandmother showed me like how to read the charts and how to follow the pattern and everything like that. So all in all, they turned out beautifully, I think. It took me about 2 years to finish them because, kind of like I said before, I used to have a lot of other hobbies, and I would work on them for a little bit, set it down, pick it back up, and the like tension and everything would just vary a lot, so I'd have to take some out and redo it. So they took quite a long time, but I finally finished them. They honestly don't get that much wear, unfortunately, and I think it's just because I mean, I think there is maybe a touch of nylon. I don't remember what the specific yarn was. The woman at the shop helped me pick it out. I do think it is a sock yarn because it seems to have a bit of stretch, but not enough to keep the stockings in place, so they always slide down, which kind of defeats the purpose of having this beautiful lace detail at the back. So I think what I'll do eventually is weave in a little bit of elastic, of clear elastic, into the top part of the band, just so that they stay up a little bit better. So we'll see if that helps. But I think the reason I was so drawn to this pattern is because it reminds me of this scene from A Secret Garden. If you've seen the movie, I'm sure you'll know the scene that I'm talking about. It's in the very beginning when the little girl still lives in India, and I think her maids are like helping her get dressed. And she puts on these stockings that are fastened with like a little silk ribbon. And I just remember at the time being so obsessed with all of the dressing, all of the costumes in that movie. Love that time period. So I think when I saw the pattern for these, I was like, that's like those stockings, I have to make them. So that's still the dream, still the vision. Hopefully they'll get a little more wear, but in the meantime, I just like to have them in my drawer and know that there's something that I spent so much time and effort making, and that it really kind of helped me learn how to do a knitting chart and kind of set me up for success in the future when I started knitting even more. So it was a bit of an ambitious first project. I think it was the only pair of socks I made until this last year, because I think I was a bit traumatized from knitting on such small needles and for how long it took. But now when I make a pair of socks, it's definitely a faster process, and I'm not as afraid to make more socks in the future. But yeah, check out the book. It has so many beautiful holiday patterns, not just for Christmas, it's also Hanukkah and solstice, and just lots of like cozy, beautiful winter patterns. And I think that they really stand the test of time. The book, I think, is a bit older at this point, but yeah, still great patterns. Okay, the next piece that I have is the Bavaria Shawl by Isabell Kraemer. And again, I'll show you some better details since I'm sitting here at this table. But this shawl is the only shawl that I own, the only one well, it's not the only one I've knit, but it's the only one I own. And it's so cozy and delightful because it's such a large size that it can be styled and worn in so many different ways. I think I've talked with other knitters who are my age about the shawl thing. We went to a yarn festival a couple of weekends ago, and I ran into a couple of girls there my age, and we were talking about how there were so many beautiful shawls at this festival, but a lot of the women wearing them were significantly older than we were, and how it seemed like the shawl thing kind of seemed to have like an age range as far as like who's making those patterns. But this shawl, I think, is an exception, and I think it's all about how you style it. I would love to make more shawls. I think there's such a beautiful way to use interesting yarns and very satisfying to knit. This one in particular, because it has little baubles and cable details, and then you also start from one end of the triangle and move to the other, so the project gets larger and then it gets smaller, so it's very satisfying to knit. And honestly, it knit up pretty quickly for how big the size is because of the yarn or the needle size, and everything like that. And I can't remember the needle size at this point. It'll all be in the Ravelry. I followed the pattern to a T. I didn't make any adjustments. And I made mine using an alpaca yarn. I believe it was from Cloudborn, which was the branded yarn from Craftsy. So I got it when I was working at Craftsy, and this was the project that I made with part of my stash that I had like acquired while I was working there. Excuse me. So yeah, that's the Bavaria shawl. I would highly recommend it if you want to try a shawl and you haven't tried one before. It's just so cozy. You can wear it like with the triangle in the front kind of draped, or you can wear it around your shoulders. It's a good piece for like if you're working at home, you can just put it over your shoulders, you know, while you're sitting at your computer to keep you cozy, or outside under over a coat. Really beautiful. I would like to make the same shawl or maybe similar. If you have any pattern recommendations for other shawls that you've loved, I would love to hear your recommendations, because ever since I made this one, I've been on the hunt for another that would be kind of equally as satisfying and maybe a similar size, but I'd like to make it in a darker color, just because that's more what I tend to wear, is like black, white, that sort of thing. And I'm not sure why I chose this color in particular at the time. I think I just thought it was pretty, but it's really not a color that I wear very much. So I think I would get more wear out of it if it were a darker color. So yeah, that's that one. Okay. The next one is the Balaclava #1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Again, love her patterns. Think they're so stylish and cool. This was my first balaclava that I made, and I was thinking about it for quite a while. Like, I was looking at the pattern. I don't know why it took me so long to put it on my needles, but I made it last winter when I was visiting my family, and I found this skein of this like beautiful bright blue yarn, and it's hard to see in this light in particular, but it has this kind of sheen to it, and it's so soft. I think it's a merino, and it will also be in my Ravelry, so if you want to check it out, it will be in there. But yeah, it knit up super quick. I think it's a project that you can easily make like over a weekend, and it's very cozy for keeping your ears warm. Here in the UK, it's, even if it's not super cold, if the wind blows, it will have like a chill to it because of the humidity that I had never experienced after living in Colorado for most of my life. So something like a balaclava is so nice because it really protects your ears and your head from the cold wind. And the only thing about this one is that it doesn't come very far forward on the face, which is fine. But I think for like a really cold day, it would be nice to have one that's even like a little bit bigger. But yeah, all in all, fits great. You can wear it as a hood, and if I could find some more of whatever this yarn is, I would make so many more projects with it, because it really, like, the stitch definition is beautiful. It's so soft and cozy and warm. So okay, and my final favorite project that I've ever made, well, I guess I have one more to mention afterwards, but I don't have the project with me. This one is the Roma vest by Mochi Knits, and I'll just hold it up a bit better so you can see. So this vest is the perfect vest that I could have possibly imagine. I test knit it for her last, I guess that was in the spring or the summer of last year, and the details on it are just so beautiful. It knits up very quickly. It has a fairly large needle size, and The yarn that she suggested is the yarn that I used, which I believe was the Sagar alpaca and the soft silk mohair, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'll definitely put it in the description, but it's just the softest, most delightful thing, but still like lightweight. So I think it could be worn easily over a t-shirt for more transition seasons or over a longer sleeve. I've also worn it like under another sweater, under another cardigan, and I just love it. It fits so well, and like the length is perfect. It's great. The only thing I had a hard time with was the button band, and I think that's like a common problem that happens, that the tension with the button band can be hard to determine because you're using a different needle size, and you don't want it to be too tight because it will kind of like pull the whole garment together in a way that like makes it a bit wonky. So that happened to me with one of the button bands, and I took it out, redid it. It still was kind of tight, and the other one wasn't at all. So it's very strange. I don't know why it happened. I feel like my tension is usually pretty even. I don't have a lot of problems like having uneven tension, but yeah, the button bands are slightly different lengths, and you can't tell when I'm wearing it, but that's just one little thing that I notice, and something that I would probably like pay closer attention to when I'm making it again. I definitely would like this vest in other colors because it's the perfect fit, and the details are so nice. She's really, Mochi Knits is really good at finishing details, like with the folded edge on the neckline. There's also a bit of like an I-cord detail on the arms, so everything just has like a beautiful finish. And then I put these mother of pearl buttons on mine, which I love. I think it just pops from the charcoal. Yeah. And if you are looking for a vest pattern in general, Mochi Knits has so many good vest patterns. Like, I feel like she's the queen of vests and pullovers. So I would definitely look at her page if you want some that don't have buttons too, just like a pullover one. Okay, and then the last one that I'll mention, I'll just show photos of it. I gifted this sweater to my previous sister-in-law, and the whole process of making it was the number 16 by Augustine's DK, and her patterns are so beautiful. I mentioned this in my first video. Really like romantic details, but this sweater was so fun. Again, like just the finishing touches, like having a rolled edge, having like finished hemlines, it makes such a difference, and it is more time consuming because you have to knit longer, and then you have to do all the stitching, so it can be a bit of a pain, but honestly it's so worth it because in the end you get a piece that's this beautiful finished garment that you'll have for hopefully your whole life, and it looks better than anything that you could ever buy from a store, and it's going to last so much better as well, I think. So that one I also made with Knitting for Olive merino and soft silk mohair, and it had a nice ruffle detail on the collar and also a peplum hemline. And the original pattern also called for this piece that kind of wraps around the waistline. I omitted that from mine because I was test knitting it, and I kind of started to run out of time towards the end, and I was afraid that I didn't have quite enough yarn. And I also just felt like with all of the other details, for someone as short as I am, it didn't make sense to have all of the things. Like, I felt like too many elements going on the sweater. But I think if you have like a longer torso, or if you're making maybe the dress version, the waist tie would be really beautiful. But the sleeves were my favorite part. I think they were so elegant, and I made this sweater. I think the colorway was pomegranate. It was really beautiful, kind of orangey red. And if I made it for myself, maybe I would make it in like a bright blue or maybe even black, something like that. But all of her patterns are very romantic and beautiful, and I think easy to follow along with. And thank you for watching today's video. If you liked this, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in seeing more creative content, I would love if you subscribe. I'll be hopefully making more videos like this. I also have some plans to make some that are about creating a slow fashion wardrobe and some small business guidance sort of videos as well using Notion, and a couple other fun like small sort of witchy things. So if that's up your alley, please follow along, and otherwise I appreciate you being here. I hope you found maybe some patterns that you'd be interested in knitting, and I hope you have a great day. See you soon.